you're ready.
All right, this is the second session of our meeting for today for Parsha 38 Korach. And this is the section on the Messiah, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach. And we're teaching this lesson called Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name or attributes of the Lord. We have been discussing a lot of things about Mashiach, trying to get to know him through the Hebrew lens. Through the lens of Hebrew culture, through the lens of the Torah, through the lens of Messianic prophecy, and through the lens of reality that maybe we have been missing. Not through the lenses of religion, but through the lens of spiritual reality, truth. We're learning. We're trying to get more accurate in all the things that we do, so that's where we are. If it sounds a little different than what you've been hearing before, then I'm kind of glad. I don't want us to approach this to study the Mashiach with a lens of doctrine. We're not meeting a doctrinal figure. We're meeting a person. We're meeting a real, breathing, living, maybe much more than that, but he's definitely a living, breathing human being. We are entering into a relationship with him, receiving a call from him into a deep, abiding, intimate relationship of service that you can't get through a doctrinal theory, construct, kind of idea. We're not trying to build an ideology, we're not trying to build a philosophy, we're not trying to build a religious structure, we're trying to get close to someone who wants very deeply to get close to us, who knows what is best for us and cares about us, and is real, and not some construct of our mind that we fit all our theology in around. So Yeshua. And tonight, this next few weeks, is going to be based on one evening's events. He's referenced in all four Gospels, so the different accounts of the Gospels. Let's talk about who wrote the Gospels and why they wrote them. And they all reference this particular night and what happened, and we're going to talk about for the next few weeks. They all reference some part of it or another. One of them, it may be the most significant. One of them was totally transformed and changed in his life forever, changed by this, and his name was John. And he was so impacted by this night that it altered everything that he ever did or ever said afterwards. And perhaps others would be too. We have four different gospel writers. We have one is, we call him Matthew, Yahoo, Hebrew. And Matthew was Levi. He was a priest, he was a priest. He was also in that day a turncoat, a tax collector. And he was a bean counter. And he was an accountant. He kept up with numbers, and he looked at life through order and structure. And so Matthew gives us the most orderly structure and account of everything. And he's mostly focused upon how it all fits into what he knows. He's fitting it into a grid. So he's fitting it into the Passover grid. And everything he talks about is about Passover, about what happened, because it is Passover season. And we're talking about this tonight. We're talking about this Passover. But Matthew has a short little squib about that. He was there, but he processed it through his own lens. His own lens about how does this relate to Passover. He's going to talk about bread. He's going to talk about wine. And he's going to talk about coming together and celebrating the Passover. That's what he sees. Then we have Mark, John Mark. John Mark was not there. John Mark came along later. John Mark wasn't in the room. He didn't experience it firsthand. He just tells the story about he has told what he's heard. He carries on, passes on the report. Now, John Mark is a doer. You ever know anybody who's task-oriented to the nth degree? It's all about tasks. It's all do next? So Mark starts off with tasks, and he goes on. He never stops tasks. And so he looks at his own life and what were the tasks? What were assigned with the tasks? He's going to say, well, the master said, go into the town and look for a guy with a pitcher on his shoulder, carry a pitcher of water, and follow him. Task. And then go, and then follow wherever he goes in, go in after him, say these particular words to the master of that house, and then go in there and prepare the Passover. So Mark gives us his idea about what it must have been like when he went in. Beautiful message, but not what we're going to get to another. Luke also was not there. Luke was not even qualified to be there. He was not an apostle. He was not among the 12. He was a Gentile. We believe he was a physician. He had many good qualities, but being was there at that night to know what happened and he's not one. So he has a very brief report. But what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about some of the things Luke said and why he said it. Luke was a physician. So Luke is always thinking about in terms of how can I present this in a fashion that is a good bedside manner. I can explain what's going on in this room. So we have the passages in part of the presentation, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and there's John. He doesn't even tell us who he is. You know how he defines himself in terms of, this is the disciple whom Yeshua loved. That was his identity. Loved by Yeshua. Not a doctor coming up trying to present this in a good fashion for people to understand it. Not someone doing acts and tasks of service. Not someone who's trying to make it all fit in the greater Passover narrative. This is a guy who is loved by Yeshua. And that night, the love became so real. Now that's the night. You know what's going to end? It's going to end with him leaning his head on the very breast of Yeshua. You can't even hardly imagine. But John was transformed that night, and he has the most deep. He spends chapter 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 5 chapters of his gospel. 5 chapters of it describing the events of that particular night. Because it wasn't just a theological event for him. It was transformative. He was with Yeshua. And he was loved. Now, as we get ready to spend a few weeks, we're going to spend most of it with John. Not that everything else, all the other speakers, we're going to talk about them as well a little bit today. But they're brief. They don't have much to say. We're going to talk about that in a short period of time. And over the next few weeks, we're going to spend a lot of time with what John had to say. Now, John told us why he wrote it. At the end of his gospel, he told us why he wrote it. That you might believe it. That you might know him the way I know him. That you might know him. That you might feel that love. That you might understand who you are in him. Who this person is. This one. This beautiful one. And what he does. That's his purpose tonight. So let's begin our sessions with our prayer. We pray the Father from this particular passage of John's writings in chapter 17. Actually, he remembers every word that Yeshua prayed. I've been around a lot of people who pray a lot of stuff. Can you remember the exact words of anybody who ever prayed? John remembered every single word that Yeshua prayed. It was engraved upon his soul and his spirit. And 1990-something A.D., it was so engraved in his spirit. He recorded and wrote every single word so that everybody would know exactly what prayer Yeshua prayed that night. And included within that prayer were some of these words. Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may also glorify you. And may we all become one, united in him, that the love with which you loved him may be in us.
we may be seen and known, you may be seen and known through us as you were seen and known through him. Amen. So we're in, I call it the Holy of Holies of relationship with God. The upper room. We can all maybe have our favorite memory of this particular 5-chapter session of discussions. I mean, let not your heart be troubled. Abide in the vine. I will send you another comforter, another advocate. He will lead you to the altar. We have our favorite part of this particular. But John, it was etched in his soul, and he recorded it word for word. He told us things that nobody else told us, because these were the things he wanted us to know. More than the theology, more than the doctrine, more than how fitted the Passover. He wanted us to know who this was, who Yeshua is, and what he wants, and why he's doing this. Now think about it. If Yeshua knew something they didn't know at this time. As they are getting ready to get prepared for the Passover in that year, he knows this is going to be his last Passover with them. How does he prepare them for that? How does he do? How can he prepare them for something they have no idea how it's going to affect them, what's going to happen to them?
Você pode ficar sentado, pra você não esbarrar e não estragar.
What can he say? What can he do?
Se alguém falar devagarzinho, você vai fazer isso daqui, ó. Empurrar pra lá, tá?
This is going to be part of the grand plan to open the door to the next process. And you will be changed tonight in ways.
Você faz assim com o seu dedo.
And tomorrow, you will be changed tonight and tomorrow and in the days to come in such a way
Não
that
aperta
you will
aqui,
carry
que
out
aqui vai
our work and do greater works.
a gravação.
And the road opens. How can you possibly prepare for this? And Yeshua does it. He unrolls it, and John describes it as Yeshua continues to do one thing after another, and say one thing after another, and answer one question after another in ways that awaken the spirit, and awaken faith and confidence, even in the midst of incredible levels of persecution and pains, suffering. Preparing us for what is going to come. Preparing us to be able to function after this tragedy, this trauma, this betrayal, this bereavement that we're about to experience. It's going to be our finest hour. Eventually. The thing will remember most. So, how does he prepare us for what's about to happen? Let's talk about how it all develops. The timing is real. It is Passover. Matthew is right. Luke is right. Mark is right. If you try to make sense of this discourse and this experience without understanding Passover, you're going to miss it. Now, was it on the real Passover? Was it on the day before Passover? That's the questions that theologians can discuss. But it was about Passover. As a matter of fact, we know it was because every gospel writer tells us it was. It says, Mark, let's use it. Now, on the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was to be killed. Passover is all through and necessary. You can't bypass Passover to get to what the upper room discourse says. Now, on the first day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb was to be killed, his disciples said to him, where do you want us to prepare that we may eat the Passover? This is not just tonight he's going to say goodbye. This is the Passover. This is his last Passover with him. Now, was it the actual Passover, the day before Passover? I don't care. I don't know. It's not my theological reason to tell you about. That's not our issue. Our issue is, do you understand that this is all about Passover? And Passover is the key to understanding the secrets of what he said that day. And he sent out two of his company, his disciples, and said to them, go into the city, and you will meet a man carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. Wherever he goes in, say to the master of the house, the rabbi says, where is the guest room where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? Are we getting the idea here? This is just Mark. So far, Mark's already mentioned 3 times that this is Passover. So he says, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples. And then he will show you a large upper room, furnished and prepared, there made ready for us. Now, We're going to go in that upper room. We're going to be there. We're going to try to get out of our mindsets that we live in 2026 AD in America and Texarkana or surrounding areas, that we're citizens of the United States of America, and we're going to be in that. We're going to be flies on the wall, but more than that, because we're going to participate in that upper room discourse in the Passover at the hill. So here he is. Before we enter into that or go any further, it's going to be important that we stop for a minute and shake off some slime. The dust of our feet, so to speak, that have gathered as we're walking through this hill country to get to Jerusalem and then preach through Jerusalem before we get to the house. Let us pause and shake off some of the religious slime and the secular cynicism slime, filth, and resolve to make our hearts that upper room. Oh, that our hearts could be upper rooms, the upper room. That we might be able to transition ourselves physically and emotionally and in some sort of imaginary fashion, using our vivid imaginations and our meditations to get in the upper room, but that we would become the upper room. We would become the place of interaction and communion with the Lord. And we would become an upper room, furnished, prepared, and made ready for the Master in this greatest night of self-revelation ever. So, Mark continues. John picks up. Try to piece the pieces together. John picks up. John 13, 1 through 1 5. Now, before the feast of Passover, back again, another voice about Passover. Now, before the feast of Passover, when Yeshua knew that his hour had come, and that he would depart from the world and go to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. If you try to enter into this night, this very special night, this upper room experience, becoming upper room, the first and foremost thing in your mind must be understanding the love of Yeshua for you. The level, the depth, and the height, and the breadth of how much he loves you, and how that love manifests itself in real ways in your life. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, the adversary, already having put it in the heart of Judas Iscariot, Shimon's son, to betray him, and Yeshua, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, he rose from supper, and he laid aside his garments, and he took a towel, and he girded himself. You know what's coming, right? You've read the story enough, and you've heard it preached, and you've heard it told. You know the story of what's about to happen is the Messiah, Yeshua, is going to take off his robe, his outer robe. He's going to grab a towel that a servant might use. He's going to grab a basin of water. He's going to go one by one, person by person, of these 12 in the room. He's going to physically touch their feet, pour water over them, dab them with the towel, and move on. How close is that? How intimate is that? How much direct conversation? You can't avoid this. This is too uncomfortable. This is too personal. This is too intimate to say it's theory or objective truth. This is a person kneeling in front of you who you should be worshiping, who you should wash his feet, who is done things you've seen in your life that are amazing, and done amazing things in your life to change your life, and now kneeling before you and touching your stinky, filthy feet and putting water splashing. Can you feel the water splashing against your feet? Can you feel we have a zone of comfort, which is usually about 18 inches. Anybody comes within 18 inches of us, it's too close. We immediately respond. We want to resist. But he's not just within 18 inches. He's right there. He's touching us. And he touches us with water and then with a towel. And that's the level of intimacy we're talking about. Now, why is he doing it? He's preparing us for what is about to happen. He's preparing us to go through life without Him being present in our lives to teach us and be our example in physical form, He's going to have to teach us how to function out there. What are the necessary elements of functioning in the world in ways that are going to bring His kingdom to bear upon the earth? He's teaching us these things through an example, through a parable, through a metaphor, through an object lesson. So He can use words, but He chooses not to use words. He chooses to use a basin and a towel and water. And boy, oh boy. So here's what happens. He puts the water on the first one. He says, he girded himself. After that, he poured water into the basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and wiped them with the towel which he was girded. And so when he washed their feet, you know the story of Peter. Kepha, of course, Kepha can't handle the unseen. Kepha has just come to the conclusion he understands that Yeshua is the Messiah, the Son of God. He's testified about all that stuff. But can you, being that real in my life and washing my feet, so he couldn't handle it. I'll pass that just for a second. So when he had washed their feet, hanging his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, do you understand what I just did to you? Do you understand? Do you realize what I just did to you? This is the first strategy of the upper room. This is the first thing of time. The water and the basin, the towel, the intimacy, the breach of the becoming that close, too close for comfort, the personal touch and the love and the care. That's the first step. So he says, do you realize what I've done to you? You call me rabbi, teacher, and Lord, master. And you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and your rabbi, have washed your feet, you ought to wash another's feet. Now, don't put on the doctrinal plans. Don't put on the sacrament choosing them. If you see this as a sacrament, then you will see the next thing as a sacrament. And the third thing is a sacrament. He's about to do three things to start this whole process called Passover. One is the water, one is the bread, and one is the wine. If you want to see these things as sacraments, take them all as sacraments and start washing people's feet. But if you want to see them for what they really are, examples, models, interventions. So he says, I have washed your feet. If I have washed your feet, you can also, metaphorically at least, wash another's feet. For I have given you what? Not a sacrament. I've given you an example. I have given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. It's not about the washing of the feet necessarily. It's about getting close and serving. Most assuredly, I say to you, why I say that? Why? Because of what next word to master is reported by John. Most assuredly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, or is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. This was not a sacrament of water worship. It was a metaphor, an action parable, to teach about the kind of leadership, humble, meek, self-abasing, servant leadership that is required to bring the kingdom to the earth. That ushers in and fosters the growth of the kingdom of the world. This is the essential kingdom leadership model. It's applicable in multiple levels for fathers and mothers and households. This model. For communities of faith, this model. For communities in general, political communities, social communities, online conversations. This is the kingdom model that ushers in and fosters the kingdom, the growth of the kingdom. Remember the Beatitudes? This is where we come back into that issue of blessed are the poor in spirit, the empathetic, the seekers of righteousness, the merciful, the meek, etc., etc. All right. Let's go to another course. Let's interrupt our discussions with John just for a few moments. And let's go to Luke, the physician. What does the physician have to say about this? It's going to sound very similar because he's reporting the same reports that Mark. He says, then came the day of unleavened bread. This is Luke 22:7 and following. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover lamb is to be slaughtered. And he, being Yeshua, said, Kepha. Now we got identifications. And Mark didn't tell us who he sent. He sent 2 disciples. But Luke will tell us who the disciples were, because he's been talking to one of them. He says, he's been sent Kepha, Peter, one of the disciples, and who was the other one? Johann and John. The 2 guys who went and found the guy with the water bucket, that was John and Peter. He said he sent Kepha and Johann saying, go and prepare the Passover for us that we may eat. And they said to him, where do you want us to prepare it? He said to them, behold, when you have entered the city, a man you will meet will be carrying a pitcher of water. Now, what's the difference? Why would that be so strange? Because generally, women carry a pitcher of water. One man you will meet will be carrying a pitcher of water. Great social custom. Follow him into the house which he enters and say to the master of the house, the teacher, the rabbi says to you, where is the guest room to which I can eat the Passover with my disciples? See how similar this is? We have really one new item, and that's the item of who are these 2? And we realize one of them was John. John was involved in this from the very beginning of the conversation. So he says, where is the guest room where I can eat the Passover with my disciples? Then he will show you a large furnished upper room. That's where our arks are going to try to come. There, make ready. And so they went and they found it just as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover. Now, when the hour had come, they prepared it, our hearts are ready. Here comes Yeshua, it's Passover, or thereabouts, it's out there. When the hour had come, he sat down with the 12 disciples with him. And he said to them, with fervent desire. It's very fascinating. The Greek is repeating the word desire. Much desire, great desire. With passionate desire, with fervent desire, epithemia, or avah. I have desired and longed to eat this Passover with you before I. English would read supper. Interesting, if you get to the Greek says Pascha. Before I Pascha. What is Pascha? Pascha is Passover. I have desired, longed fervently to eat this Passover with you, to have a meal with you, to share this common meal with you, before I Pascha, before I become the Passover for you. For I say to you, I will not eat of it again until it reaches its fullness, in the kingdom of God. So now he talks about eating the Passover. He talks about he's going into a bit of a season where he won't be with him. And then he took the cup, it says. And he gave thanks. And he said, take this and share it among yourselves. Now, again, this is not a sacrament we're instituting for the church. This is a Passover remembrance. Take this cup of the Passover and share it among yourselves, for I say to you that I will not, I'm taking a Nazarite vow from now. I will not drink of it again, the fruit of the vine, until the kingdom of God comes in full. He makes this Nazarite vow. Likewise, Yeshua took the cup after supper, saying, this cup is Brit Hadashah. This cup that we're sharing, I want each one of you to drink from, and remember something, this cup is Brit Hadashah, in my blood. English says New Covenant. It is covenant. It is a refreshing renewal, making fresh and new and expanded. It refers to Jeremiah 31:31-36. You can't make up a new theory. It has to be, that's the only New Covenant reference in time. This is what he's talking about. This cup is Brit Hadashah. It contains the elements of the new, quote, renewed covenant we're talking about. And what is the new covenant? What is this renewed covenant? You remember from Jeremiah 31? It's not now we're talking grace versus law.
Old covenant written on our hearts.
It's the Torah written on our hearts.
it's a sense of, first, I will forgive your sins. I will draw you back to me, and I will write the Torah on your hearts, and every man will know me individually. Every man will have to be talked about because you will know me. Each of you will know me. That's the covenant as renewed and expanded in Jeremiah 31. He prophesies, and who will it give you to? The house of Israel. I will make them have a fresh, new understanding, and it will be deep inside. Something will be wrought inside their heart that will be as if it was written on the heart. They will not just have scrolls to read from and study and meditate upon. It will become a live, living factor in their being. And that's in this cup. That's in this cup. It's not some little grape juice you're drinking here. I'm putting you in all the elements of that new covenant, which is shed for you. Now, the thing about the cup is, he didn't just take a sip from it, or make a toast with it. He passed it. And said, take it and drink it. Ingest it. Take it into yourself. And I'm building into you, making out of you, starting with you, making this new covenant come alive. This idea of that Torah written on your hearts. You've got forgiveness of sins. And you are going to know me personally, intimately, and direct all your lifestyle out of that. That's in this cup. And so it says, it is shed, my blood which is shed for you. My life force is being shed into you. Now it's not, I know the Catholic tradition is transubstantiation. And he actually, when you say words, magic words, somehow he actually becomes alive and comes to lift up and you drink him. It's not that. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. If you will take this cup, I will pour into you the essence of my life force. That will change you forever. Remember, it's not physical life force. It's the reality. So he goes on. He says, then he took bread. Unleavened bread, of course, because it was Passover. He took bread and he gave thanks and he broke it. And as he gave it to them, he said, he spoke a metaphor about Passover stuff. He said, this is my body. It wasn't really his body. It was a metaphor. This is my body which is given for you. Now, and then he didn't just say that and put the bread down. Then he gave a portion of it to each one. A different portion of the same bread to each person in the room. John was there. Peter was there. James was there. Judas was there. And so here we are. He's passing this bread, and he says, here is your little piece of me, of my being, of who I am. You are going to carry a part of me the rest of your life. I want you to ingest this now as a metaphoric, symbolic act to understand that I am entering into you, and I am becoming a part of who you are, and that is the part that's going to cause you to be everything you can be. It's going to release you into the possibilities and the potentials that you were made for. That is what will be the secret to your new covenant life, is to have a part of me active and alive within you. So he says, he gives him a piece of this bread, this unleavened bread, this Passover bread. And he says, do this. When you do this, because all that you do, every Passover, this is unleavened bread, so we're going to do this Passover. Every Passover, when you're doing this, let it be renewed and revived in you. Let the awakening come alive again. Remember this. Remembrance of that it's me that I'm giving you my life force. So, wow. In remembrance of me, remember and actively reflect on it. Proclaim it. Say it out loud. And rededicate your heart and life to it. Okay. So we've had 3 different actions that he's done. 3 different ways of speaking that were nonverbal primarily. 3 engagements with the disciples to prepare them for what's about to take place. The water, the bread, and the wine. The blood, the new covenant, the bread, the unleavened bread, and the water washing the feet. Before I go any further, I want to hear from y'all as to where you are, what your thoughts are, as we get to the stage of discussion. Any thoughts about this upper room? I know everybody comes into it with a doctrinal grid. I'm trying to break you out of that and let you think, let
receive from what He's really trying to give you that night. And we're there with Him, and we're receiving it. We're embracing it. And it's real, it's alive, and it's personal. Okay. That's it.
It's hard to put into words, but we know that the blood in the tabernacle had to stay in the presence of God, and it was alive. If it were dead blood, it would not have stayed alive. It would have decomposed. It would have stunk. So it is the life force of Jesus, the living, always living Son of God, flowing through our veins. And His body was broken, and it was painful, for them to watch. And He gave His whole life for them to renew this covenant, like a husband and wife, that the relationship changes at different stages in the life. When you first get married, you don't know this person. You don't know what they're capable of. But the love grows, and the relationship and the oneness of personality and intentions and destiny and what you release together grows. And there's struggles, and there's fights, and there's disagreements, and yet you stay together and you grow in this love. And that's why Jesus said it was like a man and a wife. And He had to give us an earthly example of how much He wants to be a part of us and grow in us, and us to be changed.
One of the features, speaking of husband and wife, one of the features of a Hebrew wedding or renewing vows, which we do many times, we've done hundreds of countless times in this building, different locations as well. One of the features of this Hebrew wedding is the sharing of the cup and the sharing of the first bread, the first morsel of this is usually hot, so it's not unleavened bread because we're doing a separate event. But the idea is there present that this is part of a covenant between a man and a woman, or a bride, a bridegroom, or a king, and his disciples, his subjects. This covenant is being cut. So yes, we have that element of it's very personal, it's very committal. It's not just an act or a sacrament you're hoping to get some magic out of it. This is actually a personal relationship built. Okay, other thoughts on where we are, what we said so far, where we think we would go? All right, let's.
Bill.
It's not green. Maybe I have
Okay,
May I have your voice?
I'll fix that. So the remembering of me, is that an act of remembering of Him on Passover, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
At the time of Passover. Now, obviously, we can remember Him other times. And remembrance is the Hebrew word zakar, and it means calling to the forefront of your mind, putting other things out of your mind, and bringing something to the forefront of your mind. So it's a strategic discipline of the mind to make you think about something. So that's what he said, not just, oh yeah, I fleetingly remember. No, I'm actually bringing it to the forefront of my mind and making a priority to think about these things. And let them begin to
simmer